I got it! When I first heard about Dave being trapped in a maze...
1, 2, 3, 4!
I built a labyrinth. Can you believe it?
Dave is trapped in a cardboard maze in his living room and he can't get out.
Welcome to Dave Made a Minute, the podcast where a whole bunch of us are exploring the film Dave Made a Maze 1 minute at a time. The twist. Many of the participants have never seen the film. Some don't even know what film they're sampling. They get their minutes and they tackle them as they see fit. Here's your host from the Groundhog Day Project and Michael Myers Minute, Robert Black.
Minute 24, Jane arrives and steps on a trap. Behind the scenes note, Jane's foot is played by the foot of prop master and set dresser Lauren Schell, who I interviewed back in Minute 3. To tackle Minute 24, we have Andy Nelson and Pete Wright, the Next Reel podcast.
You come home, there's a giant maze in your living room. You're like, what the? There's a giant maze in my living room. I've heard of people rearranging the furniture, but this is wackadoodle crazy. Give me a sense of that.
This doesn't make any sense.
Did I promise? Did I promise to myself? Let's do it. I promise.
It's like a fucking cocktail party in here.
I get a few words from you before you go.
And welcome back to the mystery minute-by-minute breakdown of the mystery film, which, as I've said before, I know what it is. It is Dave Made a Maze. I'm the cheater on this particular show.
Well, now it's minute 24. I think people know what an inglorious cheater you are.
People know, yes. This is Andy Nelson.
And I'm Pete Wright.
From the Next Reel Film Podcast and...
Marvel Movie Minute, our very own movie-by-minute series that we will do until we die.
The way it's looking, Marvel's never going to quit. But we're not talking about those shows today. We are talking about Dave Made a Maze, minute 24. Pete, what is happening in this minute?
That is a great question. Andy, what is going on with all the film crew? Okay, so here we go. We're now in the maze. We're officially in the maze, and we're lost in a room. It's got this very sort of Goonies vibe going on, where there's a group of explorers in the room together, and it's all made of cardboard. And there's cardboard and tape, but there are also switches and mechanics. And somebody's making a documentary of some sort, or I don't understand any of that. I don't understand any of this. It makes me very uncomfortable, this whole experiment. I want to know how the narrative goes, and I'm very uncomfortable.
It is very peculiar because here we're walking into a minute where, as you said, we're inside the maze. This is like the Goonies. It totally is, because they're inside this crazy place. I mean, at the beginning, it looks like just a big cardboard room. But one of the first shots we see, there is what appears to be a completely animate origami bird sitting on the boom operator's shoulder.
Which nobody questions at this point. Now, I assume that some point between minute 7, our last minute together, and minute 24, our current minute, somebody questioned the fully functioning bird, origami bird.
There will be talk of origami birds elsewhere on this podcast. Not by us, but yes. They are something that does occur. So. Okay,
so if somebody has not talked about origami birds, that can be seen as a failure at some level of this podcast. All right, fair enough.
Not to mention the documentary nature of something going on here. Clearly, we have a shot here where the camera operator is capturing footage of Annie. Like we're walking into this particular minute like mid-interview or something, because they get interrupted by Jane breaking into this group, and she comes storming in, and that's where our booby trap.
So that's the shot when we're close up on Annie, and it kind of zooms in, and she says, what is she saying? Like, what? And then Jane bursts in.
Yeah, I mean, Jane clearly was not with this group, so she was lost on her own and finds them.
Yeah.
But she's clearly been lost in this maze, has realized how huge it is, yet has not had any issues. She's been having nothing but a good time up until this particular moment.
And we're assuming that everybody else had problems. You know, I don't, but I'm assuming by their reaction to her that they've had some challenges with, let's say, booby traps.
Well, they certainly seem to be aware of this thing on the floor in the middle of the room, right?
Okay. Yes. Which is amazing because I guess at least it introduces me to the complex mechanics of the maze, right? It's just a room when we meet it right here. But as soon as she comes in and they do this close up of her foot, we see that it's a cardboard foot pedal that is connected to things beneath the floor, where we see as the camera sort of breaks through a cutout of the maze, we drop down through the subfloor, and there's a whole other level where something's happening. switches and ticking, and this arm is slow against a wall, slowly coming down, that we see kind of a tripwire down there, and
that is a cardboard axe.
A cardboard axe. It looks like it's going to cut the wire there, and something is going to happen. The rest of the crew says, "We think you might have tripped a booby trap. Be careful." She says, "Nobody stepped on this. You are having a tea party and nobody stepped on this."
Cocktail party, right.
Cocktail party. Jane is fantastic, played by Kristen Vangsness, who is a long-time contributor and performer in Criminal Minds, among other grammatically appropriate titled properties.
That's what I love about her career, is she seems to be, not consistently, but certainly picking a good number of projects to work on that are basically, the title is a sentence. Like, right where she got started. Sometimes Santa's got to get whacked.
Diane and Divine meet the apocalypse. Dave made a maze. It is very well structured.
Don't make me laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like her a lot. She is, I love that she brings into this room this childlike exuberance that runs into exact headlong conflict with everybody else who is clearly in a state of perplexed fear. I don't know. Are they scared yet?
Well, they seem shocked. I mean, the very first shot we get, it's Gordon looking a little perplexed. You know, he's thinking. And the director is incredibly intense. That's James Urbaniak, as he's clearly directing this interview with Annie, who seems at a loss for words, and we don't know why, right? We don't know what they've been talking about. We're coming on the tail end of whatever this is, but clearly they all seem fairly shocked and horrified by everything that's going on, until fun-loving Jane pops in and triggers the booby trap.
Now, at first, you kept saying the director, and I thought that there was this weird fourth wall thing going on, that somehow it was the director of the movie who was also in the maze.
Oh.
That's not the same guy.
No, it's Harry. We've got the film crew of Harry, the director, with the boom operator, played by Frank Cady, and the cameraman, played by Scott Narver. And they are kind of, yes, it's like they're making this little documentary inside as they're following these people around, which is, honestly, I can't remember why they're doing this.
That's what I was going to ask. How did they connect with the team?
Well, it's like everybody comes over to Dave's apartment when they hear about this crazy maze that Dave has built, and then for whatever reason they decide we're going to go inside. And this guy, you know, he's this up and coming wannabe filmmaker, and so he's, you know, as they depict up and coming wannabe filmmakers, filming everything, getting in everyone's face, and of course they want to go in the maze and see what's going on, and so they do. And here they are. So far, everybody's alive. Now, does it stay
That's
that
a
way?
tease. That's an incredible tease.
Well, it makes you wonder, because we certainly have booby traps, as we learn here. So it makes you wonder, is this a dangerous maze? I mean, as I said, Jane's been running around having fun, but there's booby traps. Are people going to start dying, Pete?
I wonder if they are. Okay, so...
And why would Dave build all of this inside this maze?
Dave is not great. So now we're getting into some being John Malkovich territory a little bit, right? Like, I feel like we're crawling inside Dave's head, and it's not a great place to be.
That's a very wise thing to say, and prescient, because it seems like what is going on with this guy who had built all of this? Inside this, what's the thing in the Harry Potter world where they go into the sack or whatever, and it's like this huge, or it's a tent. They go into the tent, but it's like this palatial.
During the Quidditch, international Quidditch match. Yeah. That's exactly what that is. It's been charmed.
It's not a sack. It's a tent.
There's no sack. There's no sack.
I think I'm thinking of Dungeons and Dragons with the bag of eternal holding or whatever that's called.
I mean, there's something like that. I'm sure somebody will pull that out of Harry Potter, but I don't remember them actually living in a sack at any point. I don't recall that. So that's really all we get, right? Then Jane, we see the mechanism start, and then Jane steps on the thing, and then that's the end of our minute. That's the straight up end of our minute.
We spend a good chunk of, like, the latter half of our minute just watching the machinations at work. Yeah. But we don't get to see what happens to our dear Jane here.
At this point, 24 minutes in, nobody has seen Dave in the maze.
Dave is lost in the maze, and they are looking for him, and they're a little lost themselves.
Here's what I want. I want Dave to have become the maze. I want Dave to just be the maze now. It's like we're going to go full Lawnmower Man. And it turns out Dave is now the maze. And sorry, everybody, but Dave has some real problems.
That's a very different movie.
Okay.
Much darker movie.
That's unfortunate because that's really what I'm looking forward to. After minute 7, I was eager to watch this movie, and now that you're telling me that it's not the movie I want, maybe I'm upset about that.
Maybe I need more Lawnmower Man in my Dave Made a Maze minute here.
Said no one ever. All right. Well, does that wrap us up on our minute? Are we feeling good about that?
I think so. I think it gives us a good sense of everything going on. And, I guess we'll bid everybody adieu until we're back. I think we come back in minute 69. So until then, everybody, enjoy the rest of your Dave Made a Maze podcast. And from the next reel and Marvel Movie Minute, we're signing off.
Thanks, everybody.
And then I could probably disarm all the traps. And then we could finish this maze. Who is with me?
That was Andy Nelson and Pete Wright of the Next Reel podcast taking on minute 24 of Dave Made a Maze. They will be back in minute 69. Next time on Dave Made a Minute, we've got George Hendricks, Doug Greenberg, and Jonathan Howell of various Movies by Minute podcasts hanging out in a hot tub and taking on minute 25.
Thank you for listening to Dave Made a Minute. Intro dialogue snippets were taken from Dave Made a Maze, directed by Bill Watterson, written by Bill Watterson and Steve Sears, and produced by John Charles Meyer. Intro music is Diversion by The Equals, featured in the film Dave Made a Maze, and Life Cycle of a Match by Parvis Decree. Outro music is Leaving This Godforsaken Place and Her Presence is Strong Here by Parvis Decree. Dave Made a Minute is a production of Lemming Drop Studio and all other featured podcast producers. You can find more content at lemmingdrops.com. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Dave Made a Minute. If you like what you hear, throw us a rating and review on your podcatcher of choice, and check out all of the participants' other shows to spread the love around. Again, thank you for listening.
As long as we're all working together, this is going to be fine. It's going to be great.
I need you to notify the families of everyone who died here today.
Totally. Wait, what?